We
And
rest our
she
case.
sure
Yes,
did.
She did. She certainly has helped her out with the Posture Perfect.
And
that could be
acupuncture.
And acupuncture as well, which we've
For
talked
chronic
about.
pain.
That's great. That's a tremendous sidebar story as well. That's Dr. Claire Oleas.
And a big thanks to Snob Hounds and Casey Toole, weekly sponsors of ours, without whom our show would not be possible. You're listening to the Laura Dion-Jones Show, and we're back on the air live, talking all sorts of jive. And our very special guest today is Steve Holt. He's been a speaker, consultant, teacher, and writer for over a decade, and is the owner of Steve Holt Consulting. He helps thousands of people improve their businesses, so listen up, kids, and their personal development through his workshops and keynote speeches. Steve's work focuses on small business development, social media, leadership, and training and development. And I knew he would be good also for our personal lives. He's written 3 business productivity books and working on his 4th, and his humorous and entertaining speaking style leaves audiences with the ideas and the tools they need to become a success and grow even in their personal lives. So let's see what we could squeeze out of Steve Areno here in the next 15. Steve's here today to tell us how to succeed in this tough economy. So why don't we give a warm LDJ welcome to none other than Steve Holt. Where's my warm welcome? Oh my God. Welcome, Steve.
Well, hey, thank you. That welcome was absolutely
my board man missed the ramp because we.
Thanks.
Thanks.
The on-ramp.
What was he working or something?
I think he was itching his ear or something.
Thinking about cheese balls.
Oh God. So listen, Steve, how did you get started in the speaking biz to begin with?
Oh, wow. Well, for a long time, I was involved in theater and music, and that kind of helped me get used to performing in front of other people. I also taught in higher education for about a decade, so again, I was used to preparing stuff, standing up in front of people, talking all the time, and people started asking me to come tell them about this or that, and it just sort of evolved. And then one day, some guy said, "Hey, how much will you charge?" And I said, "Excuse me?" And he said, "Well, how much are you going to charge to come speak for me?" And I said, "You mean you're going to pay me?" He said, "Yeah, how much you want?"
Send him to my house.
And I thought $50 maybe would be fine, you know. And so it just kind of evolved. And now, what I discovered, and what a good friend of mine says all the time, is that you may not know much, but what it is that you do know, some people are willing to pay for, and you just got to kind of tap into that and find it.
Isn't that the truth? Listen, can I ask you something?
Mm-hmm.
Do we hear a cow mooing in the background?
It's that mad cow crazy.
Do you live on a farm or something?
No, actually, well, I do live in a small town, but my offices are on the bottom floor of
the dairy?
Right here on the main street of my downtown. So occasionally people drive by with Harley Davidson motorcycles and so forth. So.
Towing cows. We heard a cow moo because we're all sitting in the station. We all looked at each other and we're going mouthing, "Is that a cow?"
Well, we do have cows, but there's none outside my window, I promise.
Okay. We're just checking.
What town are you calling from?
Where are you calling from? Tell us.
I'm calling from rural West Tennessee in a little town called Martin, Tennessee.
How many people?
Well, we have a college here. We have a branch of the University of Tennessee here. So the college is about 8,000. The town itself is about 10. So it's a nice, small, little town.
Wow, that's cool. Listen, tell me, what types of things get you charged up in the work that you do?
Well, I've gotten to the point in my career where I've spoken so many places that I'm starting to get invites back to speak at some of the same events that I have in the past. And one of the things that really gets me charged up is when people who've heard me before come up to me and say, "I followed your advice, and this is what happened, and it was fantastic." And that's starting to happen more and more. And so I love hearing these success stories of people who, I took something that I passionately believe, and I shared it with them, and they took it and ran with it. And that always gets me really charged up.
Isn't that the truth? I know the feeling because I encounter the same thing with my wellness work, with Commit to Get Fit program and everything.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Isn't that gratifying? And it makes you so proud of them that they put in the time to come and listen to you speak, and then they went home and they thought about it, and then they went and they implemented the advice that you gave them and they improved their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the reason that I do what I do is to help people. I
Sure.
mean, I am doing it for a living, so yeah. I mean, I don't mind getting paid, but I like it when somebody experiences success on something that I passionately believe in, and I tell them. That's just validation for everything.
What types of topics do you speak on that will be of interest to our listeners and that can possibly give us a few tips on, things that we can do right now?
Well, I do lots of speaking on social media. That's really a hot topic right now. Everybody wants to talk about that. I also speak on motivational topics. I speak on leadership. I speak on just general technology stuff. For example, I spoke last week to a leadership development program that some of our folks in the area go through, and they wanted to hear about how can we use technology to be better leaders. And that was a really interesting topic for me to think about. So I came up with tools that I use on a daily basis and tools that are real popular out there that correspond to certain traits that I think leaders need to have. So I speak a lot about social media, technology, leadership, and there's really I have found a very big thirst, a hunger for topics on those things, with people trying to figure out how can I use these things in my personal life and in my business to make money and connect with customers and all that stuff.
What are some of the biggest challenges that small businesses and even families face in these tough economic times, do you think?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is saving money. Whether you're talking about a family who maybe one of the spouses has lost a job, or a small business who's trying to keep the doors open and keep the cash flowing. Saving money, cutting costs is always really a tough thing. And also, I think, especially for businesses, staffing is really hard right now. There are a lot of incentives, I think, for better or for worse, for people not to work nowadays.
Isn't that the truth?
It's kind of sad.
Can I ask what stacking is?
I've got family members. I'm sorry, what?
Stacking. I'm not sure what stacking is.
No, staffing, people.
Staffing.
Staffing.
Okay,
yeah.
I know what that is.
Employees?
Thanks. I thought there was
employees,
a way to make a lot more money on top of money and making more money on top of that, but
He thought you were talking about stacking up money.
Yeah.
Oh, no. That would be a nice problem to have, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Got his attention.
Don't mind me my interruption. I'll go back to my cheese balls. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, I do have that real West Tennessee accent. Sometimes it's tough to understand me. I understand.
Not at all. It's refreshing. It's like a reality series. Go ahead.
I used to talk to some friends of mine who lived over in Sweden. Of course, they had the whole Swedish thing that I thought was really cool. But they used to love to have me call because they would say, "Okay, just talk to us. Just say anything you want. Just talk." Because we just want to listen to what gather around the phone, everybody. Listen to this guy from Tennessee.
Isn't that funny?
Anyway, yeah, it's hilarious.
That is funny.
I think it's tough it is. I think it's tough sometimes for small businesses to find not only good people, people who are willing to work, but people who are willing to put in the effort to learn the trade and develop the same type of passion and desire that that you have in your business.
Just to take the initiative.
Yeah,
to take the initiative to go a step further than what's required.
Right. It's tough to find people. I mean, to me, it's getting harder and harder to find people like that. There's all sorts of things we could say about, generational differences with young people and older people, but it's just tough nowadays if you're a small business owner to find good people to work for you. So, those are the two biggest things in my mind is being able to keep the doors open and make enough money, and then trying to find people to staff that, sometimes it can be a pretty tall order.
Don't you think
motivated and trained and.
Don't you think? I think personally that older employees, meaning 50 and over, who are probably downsized from a lifelong career, I think that they've been on the unemployment rolls now, and it's run out. And I mean, these people are more dedicated, and they understand deadlines. They understand urgency, more so than, no offense to any of the young people, but you know what I'm saying? I hear this from a lot of business owners.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, one of the unique perspectives that I have is that I taught higher education for like a decade, and I saw the progression of young people coming through over a decade, and it was just extremely interesting to me to see their personalities, what motivated them, what didn't, what type of skills that they had, their personal habits. It was just really eye-opening for me.
Just their beliefs, their instant gratification expectations.
Yeah, we could go on and go on.
Yeah. Anyway,
I've gotten to the point in my life where now I say, "Gosh, those darn kids!" You know, I've gotten to that age where now I'm talking like an old person.
And well, we better change the subject. This whole social media thing is just so darn popular, and isn't it just a big time waster? What do you think? What's your view?
It absolutely can be.
How do you make it not so?
Well, there are a lot of technology tools that I use personally to help me to consume all of this stuff that's going on and to manage it, because honestly, I wouldn't be able to get anything done if I didn't use some of these tools. I've reached a point. I reached a point last year where I was literally harming my health because I was so stressed, and a lot of it I put on myself for trying to keep up with all of these technology tools and social media tools that are available. I mean, I felt like I was supposed to be involved in all of this stuff because people are asking me about it. People want help with it. I consult about it. So I felt like, okay, I need to do all this stuff. And it literally was harming my health.
Mm-hmm.
So
and your productivity. And your productivity.
Absolutely. So I had to find some tools to use to help me manage it, consume it, and I had to block out specific times during the day and say, this is what I'm going to do, and during this time, and I'm going to set aside those times, and it's going to be sacred to me, and that's when I'm going to do this stuff. And then outside of that, I'm going to work on other things, and I've had to do that in my own personal life, and I've been successful at it. My health has improved, my stress level has gone down, and I'm getting more done now because I made a concerted effort to do that. But it absolutely can be a time waster. There's no doubt about that.
You know, that's good advice, because I do make time every day for my daily cardio. Come hell or high water. I do make time for my weight training and whatever I have to do to keep strong, and I do make time twice a day to meditate, and I never thought of making time to fulfill my social media obligations, such as putting the coming attractions of who's going to be the next guest and this, that, and the other thing, and I sometimes let that fall by the wayside, and it never occurred to me to just appropriate a certain block of time and take care of it, and that's the end of that. Like, schedule it right? Schedule it in your day.
Yeah. Absolutely. In fact, I tell small business owners, you do payroll not because you want to, but because you have to. You pay the bills because you have to. You take time to pack up the products and ship them or put stuff on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you do those things as part of your daily business. Social media, internet marketing is no different. You've got to fit it into your schedule somehow, and if that means coming in early, if that means skipping lunch, or if that means staying up late, then you do it, and you set it aside, the time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't give it to the little kid behind the counter who's 18 who's on his phone all day. You don't do that because he doesn't have the same passion.
Don't you want to slap them?
You've got to do it.
You're right. And you know what else you're right about? You're listening to the Laura Dion-Jones Show. We're on the air live with Steve Holt. He's a outstanding business success consultant and social media enabler who helps people get better at what they do, especially in this tough economy. Tell me something. How do you personally make the best use of your time so that you don't waste it? Well, we just talked about that. Like, you schedule everything in, right?
Well, yeah, let me tell you some specific tools that some of your listeners could go and check out. There are two tools that I use every day, and they are Google Alerts and Google Reader. What I used to do the first thing in the morning, because I like to read. I think reading is a great way to keep yourself informed and up to date on whatever it is your industry is about. Also keeps you intelligent so that you can have intelligent conversations with people. Mm-hmm. I used to hit probably a dozen websites every morning, hopping around trying to find the news that I wanted to consume. Well, now I use Google Reader to go out and harvest that news with RSS feeds, and it provides it to me in one simple-to-read interface. And what used to take me a couple hours now takes me 15, 20 minutes to simply scan down and see the highlights of what happened overnight while I was sleeping, all the news that hits first thing in the morning, and then I can consume it, learn it, and then I can share it using tools that help me automate my social media sharing. There are tools that allow me to schedule my posts on all of my different social media channels. So if you go follow me on Facebook or Twitter or those things, you're going to see me posting throughout the day. Well, the reality is I may or may not have actually just sent that tweet because I scheduled it this morning to be released this afternoon to kind of spread out the information.
Smart.
And that helps me to manage my day so that I'm not literally tied to my computer all day, which some people, if you let it happen to you, it can happen to you. And you can be tied down all day, and then that stress level starts kicking in. So I use those tools. In fact, that scheduling tool that I used is called Hootsuite, Hootsuite, Hootsuite. It's absolutely fantastic. Highly recommend all three of those tools.
I'm feverishly writing here. So you think are these the three best pieces of advice that are the big things that you would give us?
Well, that's a really good question. If I were going to boil it down to three things, the first thing that I would tell your listeners, especially if they're business owners, is that my first piece of advice to you is you got to find a way, especially in this tough economy, to set yourselves apart. You've got to find a way to give somebody a reason to do business with you versus your competitors. There's got to be something that sets you apart. With Walmart, it's low prices. With some businesses, it's the certain product that they sell, or it's the place that they sell it. But there's got to be something different that sets you apart. There's a really cool company that sells blenders, which is a pretty unsexy product. And what they've done to set themselves apart, it's a company called Blend Tech. You can go search on YouTube.
Okay.
They've taken their blenders and they have decided to make little bitty 1 to 2 minute commercials on YouTube of blending things that you don't normally put in a blender to prove how tough their blender is.
Like a car bumper?
So they have blended an iPad. They have blended a Justin Bieber CD. They blended marbles, and it's absolutely hilarious, and it's so goofy the way they do this. They got a guy in a lab coat, and he makes a big deal out of it and puts it in the blender and says, "Will it blend?" And then he pours out the contents after it's over and says, "Yep, it's blended." I mean, it's absolutely hilarious. And they took a product that there was no way that you could sexy it up to make it exciting for anybody. I mean, my goodness, it's a blender. But they have millions upon millions upon millions of views because they found a way to make their product, their service, stand out. That's the first thing.
Sure.
Second thing is, I really think you need to prepare your employees to work with you. I think you need to find good people, make sure they're trained, and make sure they have the same passion that you do so that you're not by yourself and you're not working alone. It's tough for small business owners to find good people around them. They feel like they can't lead the business because they're the only one who can do this. Well, if you find good employees who are reliable, who develop that same passion that you do, then you can be more successful in your business. And I guess the last thing that I would say is if you're going to get into the social media thing, and I do recommend that, obviously, you've got to find a way to make it work for you and not hurt you. There's ways to automate things, like I was talking about, scheduling my post, setting aside that time to where that's what you do during that time, and you're religious about it, just like your health and your weight loss and all your working out and stuff. You've got to, if you don't schedule that, if you don't make a dedication to do that, it can very quickly fall off.
Sure, absolutely.
And so
dedication.
Those three things are absolutely dedication. Those three things are probably the three biggest pieces of advice that I would give somebody.
Well, you know something? I got a couple more quick questions. What was the most important lesson you learned from your parents?
Oh, wow. The most important lesson I learned from my parents was that life is not fair. That you should not ever have an entitlement attitude. You need to work for everything.
Yeah.
And that life is, don't bellyache to me about why some other person has this or doesn't have this. You make your own in life. And so stop bellyaching. And get out there and get it. And so that was probably the best piece of advice I ever got. Good
for you. Do you have any regrets?
I regret I didn't start down this career that I have right now sooner. I wish somebody had lit a fire under me sooner so that I could have spent more years doing this thing that I love doing.
You're the
And
best.
I wasted so many years working for other people when I was miserable. And I should have just followed my passion. And once somebody shook me and said, "What are you doing? Why aren't you doing what you really want to do?" When I realized that, it was like the light bulb clicked on, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, what have I been doing?" So I do regret not doing it sooner.
You know something, Steve? It's that time again. You are the bomb. Honest to God, you are just... I can't even tell you how excited I am at that information, these nuggets that you gave us. I think they will help a lot of people. I know I took my notes. How can folks get a hold of you?
Thank you for inviting me on. I really, really appreciate it.
Are you kidding me? I want to have you back on. And our mutual friend, Michael, who's now in wherever the heck he is, Bangkok. Shame on him.
Oh, yeah,
eh?
I think it's Thailand, yeah.
And let's tell the folks how they can get a hold of you, how they can buy your book quickly, because we're running out of time.
Well, if you go to steveholt.com, HOLT, steveholt.com, that's where my books are for sale. It's where you can see clips of my speaking. You can follow me on YouTube and follow and see some of my clips on there. I'm also on Facebook. If you search for Steve Holt Consulting on Facebook, you can like me there. I have a blog where I write once a week on technology, social media, leadership issues, and you can subscribe to my blog. I have a free newsletter. If you sign up for my newsletter, I'll give you a free ebook just for doing that. So you can connect with me in whichever ways you want.
You are the best. It was a pleasure to have you on the Laura Dion-Jones show today, and I really am serious. I'd love to have you come back on again soon with some more tips. We'll talk off air, and maybe you want to give me a private consult.
Listen, I really, really appreciate you having me on.
I'll be in touch. Thank you, and our best to you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, honey. What you're doing right now is you're listening to the Laura Dion-Jones show. We're on every Wednesday afternoon from 3 to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on WRMN, 1410 a.m. And I've got so much more to tell you in so little time. But would like to thank everyone for being with us today. My gang, Jeff, Mike, and Valerie. And, of course, thank you to all of our loyal listeners. I hope you enjoyed today's show. I think that Steve had some excellent info for us. Next week, we're having this unbelievable guy on named Bob Miller. And for those of you who don't know Bob, he was a Detroit Tiger in 1953. He was a high school pitching phenom from Morton High School in Berwyn, and his high school record was 33-6 with 3 no-hitters. His major league career started at age 17, making him the youngest player in baseball at the time. But besides all that, he's an incredible entrepreneur. There's an entire floor named after he and his wife at Northwestern's Prentice Women's Hospital, so if that tells you anything about his entrepreneurship. And he'll be telling us all about all sorts of interesting things. And then guess what? On Wednesday, May 23rd, I will be broadcasting live from our state's Capitol building in Springfield. Illinois State Senator Carol Pancaw invited me down to be a page for a day, which should be a real hoot. I mean, if you know how Diva is, if I'm not kicked out of the Capitol building by the time 3 p.m. rolls around, we'll be broadcasting live anyway. So please be sure to join us every Wednesday afternoon on the Laura Dion-Jones show right here on WRMN 1410 AM. Lively topics, excellent discussion, all kinds of tips. And we'd also like to thank
Dr. Claire Oleas, you know, there is 2001 Larkin Avenue in Elgin.
And I got to thank snobhounds.com and also Casey Tool, Casey, for making this show and all of our shows possible. Please get everyone you know to read my motivational blog on elgin.bocajump.com. Click on blogs. And this is the Laura Dion-Jones Show. I am Laura Dion-Jones, and I have one last thing to tell you before, and this is from a 90-year-old gal. Zoom into this, Valerie. 90-year-old gal named Regina Brett. She writes for the Cleveland Plain Dealer, and she says, when in doubt, just take the next small step. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Keep all of our troops over in the Middle East and around the globe in our prayers. We absolutely love being here with you. Mikey, thanks for the happy, and I don't ever want to lose your love, ever, by Freddie Jackson. You know the drill, kids. Download it. Get your butts out walking. Your life depends on it. Semper Fi, kids, and please always pray for peace. We're getting closer. Thank you, Obama. See you next week.